Okay, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I know some people said it was 10:30. It is 1:30 for me, which I think is a much nicer time. My name is Sophia, both inside the SCA and outside the SCA. I apologize again for my background being reversed because why wouldn't it be? Also, because it is the way things work, of course, M.A.R.E.S, the actual website, isn't working today, so I won't be doing a demonstration. So we'll see how well all of this works because I had not prepared it for not being able to have a demonstration. I've been in the SCA for 8 years. I focus a lot on Elizabethan culture and accessibility. Outside the SCA, I have a Google UX UI certificate, which lets me create user-friendly and accessible digital experiences. I'm pursuing a Master's of Science in Instructional Design and Technology from the University of Maryland Global Campus, and I work closely with a professor from a local college who allows me to apply my knowledge in a real-world environment while having a decade of experience teaching that I do not have. While the SCA has officially moved to the DEI offices, I still help in that capacity for my local barony of Thor's Mountain. And I take it really seriously because accessibility isn't just a checkbox, it's a pathway to enriching everyone's experience. So the first thing that we're going to do is introduce you to M.A.R.E.S, the Meridies Accessible Resource and Education System. I'm sorry, my brain just glitched. You'll notice that that also translates really easily to medieval accessible resource and education system if we ever get there. Someone can always dream. But it's not just a platform, it's a vision and a dream that I have to make learning in the SCA accessible to everyone, regardless of their abilities or circumstances. It consumes me, and I invite you to join me. It does not have to consume you nearly the same way as it enjoys words. I am so sorry, guys. I feel I'm very uncaffeinated. But the second thing that we're going to do is try to reframe our thoughts around accessibility. Accessibility isn't just about ramps and captions, even though that's what a lot of people think about. It's fostering inclusivity within the community, within the SCA, and that each person has a different perspective. And through all these different perspectives, we can enrich how we understand history, how we understand the SCA, and how we can interact with each other. I'm not an expert with all of the answers. I follow this path, I share this journey for accessibility, inclusivity. I want to foster a positive change and hopefully help people see accessibility as an opportunity rather than a limitation. So, like I said, it's not just ramps or captions. You have all sorts of things for being able to sit in the front of court, for sign heraldry, for being able to register online instead of writing checks. All of these are different types of accessibility, even though we don't always think about them as accessibility. One of the really specific examples, if you've been to Penzic, they have the CAWS, which is the Canon Alert Warning System. It is run out of Silvertree Souk, and at Penzic, you can go and put your number on the list, and you will get an alert before the cannons go off for the battles. That is a form of accessibility that I have used. I greatly enjoy it. Other people have greatly enjoyed it. Site accessibility as a whole, looking for sites that meet ADA standards or sites that are inside when it's too cold. Even that is a form of accessibility. We just don't normally think of it that way. Being able to have a front seat at court, which for some crowns and some kingdoms is an all the time thing that certain people can sit in the front of court. For otherwise, it's a transient privilege to have available. But again, these are all really good accessibility things that don't get in the way of everyone else. And that's something I really want to iterate and reiterate is a lot of people see accessibility as something that takes away from what they enjoy, and accessibility never does that. Accessibility always makes it better for everyone. Um, so accessibility is about ensuring that every member, regardless of their ability, status, or background, can actively engage in and enjoy the experiences the SCA has to offer. Um, and in the
That's a
context,
that's a really good summation.
thank you.
Can you put
I
that
worked really
in
hard on this.
you know, it shows because we're all raptly listening. You're not being ignored. We're just listening. I just thought I would let you know
I
that.
figured I was just talking too fast and rushing things.
No,
Can you
you're doing
restate that?
fine.
Accessibility is about ensuring that every member, regardless of their abilities, status, or backgrounds, can actively engage in and enjoy the diverse experiences the SCA has to offer.
Before we wrap the class, could you write that in chat so we can
Yeah, no problem.
copy it? That would be because that's perfect.
Credit to Sophia
That's
Berkeley.
perfect. Well, it's pitching it to the group that you're in who are they want to do this, but that just sums it up beautifully. So I would appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Um, so when we teach, we don't just want to share knowledge. Just sharing knowledge doesn't actually teach people if they can't access it. So part of education and teaching is removing as many barriers as possible, creating an environment where everyone can learn, share their expertise, and thrive, regardless of what might be different about them. So some of the barriers that we do need to think about removing are physical barriers such as inaccessible venues, but we also have digital barriers that not a lot of people think about. I know the SCA has been online for a couple of years now, but there's still a lot of catching up to do with things like closed captions being on Zoom, and not everyone always has those on. Are things available on a screen reader? Do we have appropriate visual descriptions for the pictures that we're looking at? These are all barriers that are there, and yes, they take work to put into place. I'm not saying it's not a lot of work. If you're familiar at all with like transcribing videos, it's about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes to transcribe 1 minute of video, and that's for people who are really good. So when you're talking about classes that are an hour long, you're talking like a very long time to get that done. Um, but once it's done, and everyone can benefit from that. I always have subtitles or closed captioning when I watch TV. I'm hard of hearing. And now my household is like, I can't hear the TV without the closed captions on. It doesn't negatively affect them, it helps them as well. And now it's an essential part of what we do together. So I really want this vision to be able to accommodate that everyone learns differently and everyone has different abilities. And by embracing accessibility, we're creating an SCA where every member has an equal opportunity to contribute and learn, enriching all of our collective knowledge for now and the future. So M.A.R.E.S, again, it's currently the Meridies accessible resource and education system, promotes inclusion within the SCA, and it serves a bridge so that everyone, regardless of their abilities, can participate in educational activities with their unique perspectives and experiences. It offers flexible and accommodating learning environments that cater to a wide range of learning styles and abilities. By doing so, it creates a broader and more diverse group of members that can engage with our educational content. And while the emphasis is on accessibility, it encourages people to participate more in educational activities, giving them a place to share knowledge, collaborate more effectively, and we become a closer culture and closer group, which is really fundamental to how the SCA operates. And while this is an online learning system and electronic and about accessibility, it doesn't negate the SCA's core mission of researching and recreating pre-17th century history. It actually makes historical knowledge and skills more accessible, making our educational content reach a wider audience, and in turn preserves and promotes the SCA mission. Okay, any questions?
There's a comment from Emma in the chat, Sophia, that says there are some shortcuts to that process now. If you have an AI type option where it does the caption process, then you can edit that generated transcript. It's much easier and faster to do. I'm researching and testing options on that, she says.
Yes, they are good. You do have to pay for the ones, you still have to pay for the ones that are really good. Additionally, because the standards are all different with how the AI is built, when you're trying to match standards for subtitles and noises and sounds, you still have to do a lot of work, but AI is a great place to start. And there are some that do free ones. There's just not a lot that do like an hour or anything like that. And I typically find with a lot of the more specialized stuff in the SCA, like this is just normal stuff, but some of the more
Good point.
specialized stuff, the AI can't handle it very well at all.
That's a very good point. I've done, believe me, I've done academic transcriptions well before there was AI, so I understand it. But yeah, a 5-minute YouTube video is not an SCA class or presentation. That's an excellent point.
I
So
actually have a question.
yes.
So looking at the list of classroom participants, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seems like I am the only male in the room. And if anything, I think men need to be hearing about this kind of thing much more. Is there anything I can do to kind of bring more men into places like this?
So I think the base of it, and that I've talked about this already, is besides invite your friends, uh, the idea that accessibility still takes things away from people, and we really need to start shifting that thought process.
So other than kind of bringing it up with other men when I'm around them, is there, I mean, is that just kind of it? Just talk about it more
Yeah,
in male-dominated
champion
spaces?
accessibility.
Okay.
Champion that it's not about taking things away from anyone. It's always about adding more features that are helpful for everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh, so moving on to the next section, M.A.R.E.S is not a normal education platform. It does use Moodle, which is one of the standard ones, but the overall goal is for to be a learning management system and database software, to be a centralized location to collect and access knowledge while upholding a high standard of accessibility. So the goal is kind of imagine whatever your LMS is if that's Moodle or Canvas or Blackboard or whatever one you're familiar with, plus like Wikipedia. Those two together in one system for people to search in one area for the information that they want. And because it's all under one system, it has the same accessibility standards across the whole thing. So it's all even. The mission statement for M.A.R.E.S. At M.A.R.E.S, our mission is crystal clear. We're here to break down barriers. We're committed to providing accessible educational opportunities within the SCA community and beyond. We firmly believe that education should be inclusive, empowering, and accessible to individuals of all backgrounds and abilities. No overly lofty goals here. There is currently a small team of people working on M.A.R.E.S. There is a Facebook that I can share with you, but with the holidays and everything like that, and doing graduate school stuff has been a little bit dead, but hopefully we're getting over that. A lot more stuff happens over the summer, I think. So as a core feature of a centralized knowledge repository, it's a treasure trove of all the SCA knowledge in one place, all the way from historical texts and images that people have taken to artisan tutorials of how to underwater basket weave or make a sword from blood. I don't know. I don't do either of those things. Rather than across 3,000 blogs, and all of those blogs are still valuable and still important, but if you don't know that they're there for you to look at, you're never going to find them, which makes them inaccessible. There's an absolute commitment to accessibility. I do not want accessibility to be an afterthought. It should be the heart of all the education that we do. And we should design all of our educational materials to be accessible to individuals with varying abilities. We need to make all of our knowledge inclusive. Additionally, one of the things that people don't think about a lot for accessibility is money. And therefore, we need to be cognizant of that when we're designing something. And knowledge shouldn't have a price tag. We are not an accredited university that is giving out degrees. We should be free for this knowledge. It's on the internet. It does cost money, but the SCA does raise money through memberships and other fundraisers. So by removing the financial barriers, everyone has access to the knowledge. It democratizes the educational system. Additionally, not everyone prefers Facebook. There was the Honorable Clover on Facebook, but it becomes a communication channel when it's all set up that doesn't rely on a single social media platform. It is something that the SCA would control, which means members have the freedom to choose how they share and access educational content, which respects everyone's diverse differences, which is, again, another form of accessibility. Furthermore, it's not just about individual learning. A lot of times you have one person teach how to make MEAD 101, how to make MEAD 102, how to make MEAD 103, and then you have a different person teaching those same classes. And that is fine, but what we can do is create a sense of community and shared knowledge where all of those people teaching Brewing 101 can get together and maybe make a better Brewing 101 class that serves all of the SCA that is greater than the sum of its parts. It allows people to contribute their expertise and learn from one another and allows people to grow better and further than they would have been able to grow on their own. Humans are very social, and there's nothing wrong or bad about leaning into that. The learning system will also have a variety of learning materials such as text, images, and videos. This is to allow a lot of formats of the same information because everyone learns differently and sometimes learns differently just based on the material or how they're feeling that day, so that there's always something for people to engage and resonate with. And in the spirit of personalized learning, it is the goal way in the future at this point to offer features where people can customize learning paths and track their progress, which enhances the educational experience by tailoring it to individual goals and needs. I view this a lot like the Meridian Royal University. There's different degree paths that are close to like associate, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate. People kind of choose how they go through that system, just like in normal college environment, being able to offer that to people for whatever it is that they're interested in. And then again, accessibility at the core of everything, making sure classes are available in videos with closed captions, transcripts, making sure things are compatible with screen readers so that no one is left behind when it comes to learning. Any questions?
There aren't any in the chat.
Okay. Give me a second. I am looking at my notes because I know at some point I talk about a demo. Okay, I don't have the demo yet, but the demo is not quite going to happen, like I said, and I apologize. So something that we can do right now, even without M.A.R.E.S specifically, but when we're looking at creating educational content for the SCA, is making sure that it's accessible, making sure that things are well structured, they flow in a logical manner. It's easy to navigate, whether that's a printed handout or online. Your formatting should be consistent with your headings, with your bullets, with your numbering. One of the weird things that I hadn't really thought about was that you shouldn't use a numbered list unless it's actually important. Some people just prefer numbered lists, but the bulleted lists, when the order doesn't matter, is actually more accessible. You also want to make sure you have alternative text to your graphics and images, which allows individuals with visual impairments to understand the content presented visually. The alternative text is a little bit different from visual description. So the alternative text for my image on Zoom right now might be, a woman with brown hair and headphones wearing a white shirt on a yellow background. Whereas the visual description would be a white woman with brown hair that appears to be in a ponytail wearing headphones and blue glasses with a white shirt. The yellow background has an emblem that states "And here presents SCA Collegium," and the text at the top reads scadei.wordpress.com. And you also want to make sure you're using clear, concise, and jargon-free language, which can be hard within the SCA because sometimes you get down those rabbit holes and you get into really specialized knowledge, but you can always introduce those and make sure you're introducing those definitions, which also means that new people aren't going to feel left out. Jargon is very separatist. If you're in or out. So by making sure we're reducing jargon where we can and defining it when we can't, we increase accessibility for everyone. And one of my things that I really like, and it's the backbone for everything that I do, is the universal design for learning. It's one of the pedagogies for education. And some of it is that it aims to make educational materials and activities accessible to a broad range of learners. As much as I want everything to be accessible to everyone at all times, we're not there yet, but we can get as close as possible to that goal. So UDL encourages multiple ways of presenting information. So like I mentioned earlier, using text, using images, using audio, using video, providing transcripts, providing subtitles, offering the same information in as many different forms as possible so people can choose which way is the best for them to learn. And that also allows learners to engage with material in various ways, whether that be through interactive drag and click on a website, doing something hands-on in a classroom, just having discussions, private discussions, open discussions. All of those are different ways that people learn and process information, and we should be striving to provide that in everything that we do to make it more accessible. And this isn't as big of a deal in the SCA, but UDL allows for multiple ways for learners to demonstrate their understanding of content. This is a huge accessibility thing. It allows people to accommodate different learning styles. So when I was in undergrad, I had one of my classes where all of my exams were oral. It was easier for me than trying to spell so many things in anatomy that I could not spell. Um, and I got graded the same way as everyone else. It didn't change my grading or anything in how I did. But it was an accessibility thing that allowed me to do better. So UDL is an abbreviation for Universal Design for Learning. It is capital U, lowercase d, capital L. So something that we need to think about when we're talking about all these different means of representation and engagement is that people have different learning styles. And the traditional learning styles of like visual, auditory, kinesthetic, reading and writing has widely been disproven, but it doesn't change the fact that those are the ways that people learn. It's just not really set in stone the way that they teach you it is when you're first learning about it with the quiz of like, what's your learning style? Everyone uses those in different contexts to learn the information. So having it available in all those different ways fulfills that. And by doing that and providing the content in various formats, it is flexible. It does exactly what the student needs it to do so they can learn. It means the instructor isn't having to adapt materials when they're asked. It's all already adapted. So again, you have this front load heavy work, but it creates an easier time and more accessible time on the back end. So the advantage of doing an online LMS is you can do some of those hands-on activities that can get done in a classroom that you can't normally do online. And there are ways to make those accessible to people with screen readers or other disabilities. Additionally, it creates this inclusive learning environment. It provides a set of ground rules on one platform for everyone to follow that encourages respect and open dialogue and accessibility. Everyone can start speaking the same language and sharing the ideals that are beneficial to the SCA without mixed messaging. It also means we can foster meaningful discussions. If we have a safe place for the people in the SCA to ask questions that are controversial about history, because there's a lot of history that is controversial, we can again build that respect and build those meaningful discussions that allow us to engage with each other and create opportunities for everyone's voice to be heard. And additionally, and this is very off from like, I was going to say high school. I don't know how high school works anymore. There's no wrong questions. We want to build a place where people can make mistakes and learn without it being detrimental. Everyone is valued. Everyone can contribute. And that's just a culture that we really need to build into education to make it more accessible. Within M.A.R.E.S, PDFs have tags. So there's actually specific tagging protocol for PDFs. Everything is screen reader friendly. All the HTML is tagged and set up correctly for navigation. All the videos have closed captions, which I'm sure Emma can tell you how long that takes. If anyone wants to volunteer to close caption videos, there's a lot that you can do. But that supports people who can't hear or have other hearing impairments. It again makes that video fully accessible. And transcripts for audio materials, video or simply just audio, so that learners can read or review in a text format. So Kevin, you had asked earlier kind of what can we do to get more men in, but also how do we get more people involved in accessibility? Learn more about accessibility and stress to the people that you're close with the importance of being aware of accessibility. Participate in workshops in your local area, run something at your local level that talks about accessibility. Again, this is all focused on educational accessibility in an online environment, but we talked earlier, accessibility is having a building when it's really cold. Accessibility is making sure that people are not going to die when they eat feast. Those are all forms of accessibility that don't harm people, that people have accepted as okay. So if we can build off of the ideas of here's what's already done for accessibility and it's okay, maybe we can step up this one more thing. See, it still doesn't affect you negatively. So be an accessibility champion within your local groups, provide guidance, learn the ADA, learn the WCAG, learn everything that you're willing to learn, that you have the capacity and the spoons to participate with, and share that knowledge with people. One of the important things both for online education and accessibility in general is user feedback. Get feedback to do continuous improvement at local level, what buildings are using, how to improve how subtitles are written, that type of thing. Tiffany mentioned hybrid events. I love hybrid events. I think they're fantastic. I wish all events were hybrid because it's not fair to people who are unable to get out for whatever reason to have to miss out on that community. And again, that just increases collaboration. It increases the knowledge base of every individual within the SCA so that everything is better, everything is more complete, almost like a giant peer review process where everyone is honing each other to be the best version of themselves. So for M.A.R.E.S, again, I'm so sorry it's not working, guys. I feel awful. There are accessibility guidelines for creating content, and that is making sure it's transcribed, making sure that the lighting is okay, making sure the video isn't awful, making sure your mic isn't cutting in and out, that type of thing, so that it is accessible and easy for everyone to use. Any questions?
I saw that Emma had raised her hand earlier. Do you still have a question?
It's more of a comment than a question. It's back to the alt text. I want I'm doing communications for an Ontarian event, And it's a tournament. It's a camping event over Memorial Day weekend. And I had a heck of a time trying to figure out how alt text worked in Facebook because I expected it to look like alt text looked like on Twitter, where it says ALT at the bottom and everything. It doesn't work like that. So be aware. My comment is it's important to be aware of how alt text functions on the platform that you're using. And is that a cat?
It's Orion.
Oh, hi, baby. So that was my comment about alt text. And I absolutely agree with you on jargon, and the worst jargons we use are acronyms. When I was looking at the publicity materials for this event, I didn't find, no, it's probably there and I just missed it. It's DEIB. And if I don't know or I'm relying on a text reader, what's DEIB?
So
Don't
aside
just
that is completely unrelated, almost every other country in the world uses IDEA.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just remember, spell it out the first time. It's an academic thing where you type out diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, right? And then in parentheses, put DEIB after it. So everybody knows that when you're using DEIB, it means the full thing. And stay away from modern jargon too, like TL colon or semicolon DR, which means too long, didn't read. I had to Google that to find out what it means. So when I make a post, instead of using TLDR, I use key topic or key topics. So people get that quick summary. But yeah, these are all things we should learn how to do, but alt text is not the same in every platform I have learned. That's it.
M.A.R.E.S is Meridies Accessible Resource and Education System, which if it catches on in the SCA overall and corporate catches on it, which I really hope it does, we can transition that to Medieval Accessible Resource and Education System.
Oh, that's cool. And you did introduce the full name before you started referring to it as mayor. So
yes, someone just came in late, so I wanted to make sure I addressed that.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So you're from Meridies and you haven't really heard about it because I've been busy with grad school and moving and doing things. And I've moved twice in the last year and hopefully stuff gets moving. But if you find me at events, I'm harping about accessibility. So introduction to M.A.R.E.S. This is your lovely demo of how to sign up. You can't sign up right now, I'm sorry. I will put out the link for the Facebook group, or you can message me. I have contacted the webmin, but it is a Saturday. So as soon as that gets going or you want to help, feel free to reach out or sign up. But you can get my little scripts. Before we dive into the demo, let me highlight that M.A.R.E.S is designed for user friendliness and accessibility. It's easy to sign up. That's changed a little bit because I changed the LMS now that there's an email verification part, which does add a step of complexity. It's something I couldn't get around with changing which LMS system I was using. When you join, you land on the dashboard, which allows you to navigate, search educational content, and connect with fellow learners. Everything is well tagged, and you can either type in a tag to search directly what you're looking for if you want something very specific, or there are broad categories so you can kind of peruse what is there. There are closed caption for videos, transcripts for everything. Everyone should be able to access and understand the materials regardless of their abilities. If you want to share knowledge, there is whole guidelines and packages of free software that I've put together to allow people to contribute without spending any money and knowing exactly what those standards are. Which people can then contribute articles, videos, or tutorials, and all of your expertise is always valued. And it's not just about consuming content. Nothing in the SCA is just about consuming content. It's about connecting with each other, engaging, discussions, comments, learning, and growing together. Okay, I am running out of time. Is there any questions?
I think you have till 12, don't you?
Do I? I do.
Yeah, you have an hour.
Sorry.
Sorry, you have 12 till 12 o'clock Pacific.
I am doing so good then. Okay.
Do you want
Um,
questions?
yes, we can still do questions.
I'll read
Uh,
you. Kaylin the Red said, I've been advocating for mobility issues to disabled, handicapped people at Gulf Wars for years, and have relatively been ignored by those who have no concept of the struggle it can be just getting to an event, let alone dealing with the logistics at the event site. Their pat answer is to just camp in the, quote, designated handicap area. There are multiple reasons why that is not a sufficient answer. The same happens at Penzic, too, to a certain degree. What do you suggest we do about this?
so that's hard, partially because the SCA tends to do things the same way they've been done for a long time. So pushing that change can be very difficult. Additionally, accessibility does cost money, and not everyone is well versed in like how much money that costs. I know for a local event, I basically had to emergency buy a wheelchair ramp for someone. And that wheelchair ramp just to go over a doorway was $80. Uh, and people were trying really hard to be like, but what about this cheaper option? What about this cheaper option? And none of those were acceptable because they weren't up to standard. So we need people who are knowledgeable about what the standards are, about how much they cost, and to not back down, which is sometimes the hardest part of sticking with this is what we need. What I have done locally is basically been the accessibility coordinator. So people would email me if they needed certain spots to sleep in cabins, and they wouldn't be able to pick their specific cabin, but they would tell me, did they need to be near the bathroom? Did they need to be somewhere flat? Did they need to be near the main activities? And I could assign cabins based on their needs. And no one really noticed that that happened outside of the people who got those spots that they needed.
Emma Dargenton has your hand raised.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I did ask it this question in the chat, but I'll just reiterate. Maybe I missed this when you were introducing M.A.R.E.S, but are you actually using it now in Meridies?
So I have full support from the Kingdom Minister of Arts and Sciences and the Beacon Herald. It was originally designed to start doing heraldic education. I am also the heraldic education officer. So it is used in a limited capacity for that. The goal again is to get it up higher than that. The seneschal knows about it. The wed minister is fully on my side. Everyone supports it. It's just a matter of personnel and time.
Thank you. How long have you been working on the project?
So I started really doing accessibility maybe last golf.
Mm-hmm.
And so ever since then, I've been trying to work on it. It's just, again, I am one person, and
Yes.
while I have some fantastic help, everyone is busy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just wanted to get a lay of the land of where you're at with it. I wasn't sure if this was an actual running system or something that's in progress, and it sounds like it's in
When
progress.
it does work, which is not today, because of course, it is an up and running system. It just has very limited content.
Okay, and is it just used for the heraldic stuff at the moment?
at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
But
Look forward to what
there's
happens to it in the future.
full support from like the marshals to do the yearly marshal training on it.
Oh, great.
So, this is generally the question segment, because then I have the whole thank you for coming stuff. So feel free to ask questions for a while. I am here. I will talk to you if you ask me questions. Maybe I talked a little fast, but
My hand's up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Kaylin.
Yeah. Can I first let me ask the teacher, are you the disability or the DEIB officer for Meridies?
there is no longer an official DEIB officer.
Okay. So
the
circling back to the accessibility to event options, because I have been advocating literally since 2016 at Golf Wars. And I've come up with many, many things that don't cost them money. They just have to allow it. Yet they will ignore the suggestions. And, you know, based on the few comments of the people that are in here, there's many people that have just given up and stopped going. They made it so difficult for anybody with even if you have epilepsy and you need to be near have special equipment, stuff like that. It's not just mobility issues. If we know what it takes to make our life easier and can provide it, then I believe we should be allowed to bring whatever that is with us, up into and including a golf cart to get around these big sites with a handicap exception. Or at least till we can get back to our campsites where there's appropriate medications and whatnot to help us. And that's where we're at a dead standstill.
So I do know for golf carts, there actually is separate golf cart insurance that changes based on the number of golf carts. That doesn't make it okay that they're not allowing that, but that might be something where
Well, I'm not asking them to pay for the golf cart. I would happily rent a golf cart if they allowed me to have a golf cart. I have in my encampment, we literally had 6 registered disabled, federally disabled people in my encampment. And this year we're intending to have more. So as our population gets older, the more issues are coming up, obviously. And, that's why I'm such an advocate.
No, so what I'm saying is the golf cart insurance changes based on the number of golf carts on site.
Okay.
It is a separate cost.
To the SCA.
Yes, to the event. That
Okay.
being said, until a better option is available, such as providing more money for insurance for more golf carts, I do think camps being able to split the cost for golf cart insurance or something like that would be hugely beneficial. If you reach out to me afterwards, I am on the staff for Golf Wars.
If I reach out to the what?
If you reach out to me after, I'm on the staff for Golf Wars.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Emma Haldane, and then I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce your name, Mifanwe Ferret are next with questions.
Emma here. The event that I'm working on has been going on for 50 years, and it's a camping event, and we are not allowed by the Park Service to have golf carts. So what we have done is we can have, people can have electrical mobility devices like scooters or wheelchairs or or, there's all kinds of really cool ones now. And so what we have done is one of our, several of our people actually have those mobility devices. So we have marked out the easiest paths on the site. And we have taken videos, and we have worked with volunteers to arrange to have a generator available. Now you have to pre-register because somebody's got to be there and has got to, set up, and the limited time. It's not 24/7 service, and it's just for CPAP batteries and just for electrical mobility devices. You can't charge your phone on it. We have a handy, I call it an accessibility parking lot instead of a handicap parking lot, where preference is given to people with state or provincial, we're part of Canada, placards, parking permit placards. But it's not limited to people. It's just they come first, and that's going to be pre-reg, and that's going to be like labeled, and that's going to be your parking spot. And we're trying really hard. All of our signs have words as well as images and colors on them. We have a volunteer transport service that will take you from your when you set up your camp and you park your vehicle, we'll bring you back to your campsite. We'll take you to your campsite when it's time to break down. It's not, it can't be, we're going to run you back and forth whenever, but we can do that. And so we do, and we advertise it, and we actively solicit ideas. Could any of those ideas help with is it Great Western War or Gulf Wars? Or both?
Gulf Wars, and of
Gulf Wars.
course, those ideas are fantastic, and I wish some of them have been suggested, of course, to the Gulf War staff, and it's a shame you're not in charge. How's that?
Well, I'm not in charge of this either. I'm just very adjacent to the folks who are in charge, and I'm handling communication. And I was co-steward on our 12th night coronation for 2023, and we worked really, really hard to handle accessibility, including people who needed quiet spaces and that sort of thing, to the invisible disabilities. So we're trying.
Right.
But how they're doing the CPAP is they're using one of the co-stewards RV generator. And that's how we get this CPAP. So maybe that's a way to do it. But again, this is people who are willing to do it, and they're volunteering. And
well, a lot of the folks, I'm sorry to interrupt. A lot of the folks, especially with CPAPs, and I'm one of them, I will buy the electrical outlets, or I have people that have bought the batteries, that they have bought the whole solar array, and so they can charge what they need and are still paying it off in order to have that and not be a burden per se, or have to sit for 6 hours at a charging station while their batteries charge every day or every other day.
Hi,
I get that. But
there's some more questions we'd like to move along. I'm sorry. There's also going to be.
I was about to say, but there are other classes that specifically deal with this sort of thing. So let's go there later in the day and get back to stop hijacking Sophia's presentation. And you're talking perfectly fine. You are not talking too fast, my dear.
Okay, there's one more question I see in the chat. I'll read from Mifanwe. What do you see as the biggest barrier to SCA accessibility right now, and how do you think we can start to address that?
So I think the biggest barrier to accessibility is culture and thought process. So many people view accessibility as something that takes away from them when that's not what it is. But because they view it as something that takes away from their experience or their dream or reminds them, of the modern world, that hurts accessibility more than anything else right now. The best way to address that is to talk about it. One of the things is I talked to the local um, Kingdom Earl Marshal about doing a something more accessible for fighting. And there are a lot of fighters, in my experience, that are more averse when you say let's make fighting more accessible, because there is a requirement for physical capability. You can't get around that. But you have a lot of there's rapier where some of them you sit down on a stool. That's accessibility, and everyone does it, not just, the people who need to. That's part of the tournament. So I managed to talk to the local Earl Marshal, and one of the things that we did was like a one-arm tourney. The only thing you could fight with was a sword. Um, they also did a boffer tourney so that everyone, even people who weren't registered, who weren't authorized to fight, could participate. Because it's at a lower speed, it's less force, and it just becomes fun. Um, so it's trying to work with people for innovative ideas that are outside the box, where people don't feel like they're missing out. It adds to their fun to work with people who've never fought before, and stuff like that. Does that answer the question? Okay, I will take silence as yes, unless someone says otherwise. Okay, so getting towards the end, accessibility is super important, inclusivity is super important. Again, we're not looking to just accommodate physical needs, it's creating an environment throughout the SCA, physically and online, where every person can fully participate. M.A.R.E.S, as it gets going, and hopefully we get more staff and more enthusiasm for it, will provide a one-stop shop for accessible educational opportunities. And it is a vision. It is a dream that, even if I'm not the one who does it, because it is a lot of work, that I want to see the SCA create that environment. We can increase accessibility in education by making sure we have multiple formats of documents, by making sure there's transcripts, that type of thing. Again, the more ways that we can offer content, the more accessible that it is. And again, it's not just the physical accommodations. There are fonts specifically for people with dyslexia. They don't work for everyone, but that is a really small thing to format a PDF document with that text, to be able to send to people. And again, it's that little bit of work to get it set up, but then it's done. You don't have to do it again. As I've shown you in the demo, because M.A.R.E.S is currently working, it's easy to sign up and it's accessible. I really hope it gets working soon. I still haven't heard from the web minister, but it's a Saturday and we've all been snowed in and iced in forever, so it's probably, forgivable. And engagement, discussion, and collaboration, becoming a community that focuses on accessibility and accessibility in education allows us to be more passionate about it and to share it and hopefully to inspire others to continue and share that. So M.A.R.E.S mission, once again, break down barriers and provide accessible education for every member of the SCA. Again, we want to advocate for inclusivity and sharing our knowledge and ensuring that everyone has a seat at the table. Everyone has something different that makes them special. And one person or one small group of people cannot possibly come up with every scenario for accessibility. You just can't. So by including everyone and getting everyone's input, we can be better for everyone. So thank you for coming. I'm sorry that I could not actually show you M.A.R.E.S, but it's sitting here and listening to me talk for an hour and a half about something that you can't physically see right now. That really means the SCA is moving forward and thinking about accessibility and how to be better in the future. You can always feel free to reach out to me. I am on Facebook under Sophia Kate Duvall. I will type that in. There's also the Facebook group that Mistress Penelope posted further up in the chat. So any accessibility, education, anything, I am so excited to talk about it, and I have so many opinions, and I will share them if you let me. You can also email me. I'm at education@meridies.org. That is my personal Kingdom web address to deal with M.A.R.E.S and other educational issues. And so if you have any insights, feedback, how can I improve this? Do you have an idea for something to do in the future? Please let me know. That's the only way that we can get better. Yes, that is the correct email address.
Thank you. I didn't know how to spell Meridies, but I guess I do.
It's in my name.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much, Sophia. Shall I stop the recording now?
But I have a perfect closing statement that's scripted, so give me a
Okay,
second.
sorry.
In closing, let us remember that the heart of our shared passion, the SCA, beats with the rhythm of history itself. History knows no boundaries or barriers. It is the story of humanity told by countless voices from the past. As we stand on the precipice of the future, it is our duty to ensure that every voice, every story, and every experience finds its place in our grand narrative. M.A.R.E.S is not just to be a platform, it is a beacon of inclusivity, a bridge between our diverse perspectives, and a testament to our commitment to accessible education. It is a tool we will all be able to use, shape, and mold to create more enriching and accessible SCA experience for everyone, regardless of their abilities. Remember that pursuit of knowledge is a noble endeavor, and the path to wisdom is one we all share. By embracing accessibility and inclusivity, we amplify our collective wisdom and ensure that the tapestry of history is woven with threads of understanding, compassion, and unity.
That was excellent.
If you'd
The
like to
one
stop
thing I
recording
was
now.